Hi everybody, this is Ann Emery of annkemery.com. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make small multiples histograms like the one shown on the right. This is not a default option in Excel. You'll need to use some behind-the-scenes secrets to create something like this yourself, which is what I'm going to teach you today. First, I'll provide you with an overview of the 6 steps that I used to create this chart, and then we'll do a live demo, and I'll teach you exactly what to click on in Excel to do this. And you'll get to download this spreadsheet so that you can practice it on your own. Here's step 1. We're looking at the original data table. This is population data for 5 counties in Virginia. I live in Arlington here, and Alexandria, Fairfax, Loudoun, and Prince William are also nearby. This is real data. It's Census 2010 data that I downloaded off the internet, and I just pasted right here into my spreadsheet. So let's scroll down and check out step 2. Here's step 2. You need to insert empty columns into your data table. Now this is a little bit counterintuitive, but you'll see why I did this in just a moment. So all I've done is inserted a blank column right here, a second blank column, a third one, a fourth one, and then pretend that there's another one over here. You know, we've got lots of empty cells, but this is where you'd have another blank column corresponding with Prince William's data. Step 3 is that you need to insert some fake data into those columns. So all you need to do is look at the biggest number in your table. So I scanned through my table of all of that real population data, and I found that the biggest number was right around here. So about 89,000 people in Fairfax in that age bracket. So then you add a little bit to that number, and this is not an exact science, so I usually kind of guess and check. So here's my very, very fancy math. So I just pretended that I would add maybe 6,000 people to that number. So I inserted a very simple formula, equals 95,000 minus whatever is in this cell adjacent to it, cell B73. And then what I did is I copied this formula down by clicking on that little green square in the lower right-hand corner of the cell. And if this doesn't make sense now, don't worry, when you see the live demo, it'll make a lot more sense. Here's step 4, highlighting the data table and inserting a stacked bar chart. So we're going to use a stacked bar chart to create our small multiples histogram, and I'll teach you how to do this too. You can start to see the shape of these histograms. So this light blue here is going to be the data for Arlington. And then these orange bars right here are the fake data that we inserted just a moment ago. Then we've got some gray data here for Alexandria and more fake data here in yellow. This is the blue data for Fairfax. Again, the fake data that we inserted in those columns with our formula. Loudoun County data, fake data, real data for Prince William, and fake data adjacent to Prince William. This is not formatted, so that's what we're going to do in the next step. We need to make this come to life a little bit more. Step 5. Okay, so we know that about half of those bars are fake data. So what we're going to do is click on them and actually turn them white to hide them from view. We want our fake data to be invisible. Hopefully at this phase, you can start to see the shape of the histogram pop out even more. So I'm going to click on the real and fake data again so you can see it. So we've got real data, fake data, real data, fake data, real, fake, real, fake, real, fake. And of course we've got some grid lines in the background and all these crazy numbers down here that don't make sense at all. And we still have this legend that we'll take care of in a minute too. So step 6 is the final step. This is where you're going to format your chart and make it come to life. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see this even better. I've made notes of everything here too that I changed. So one thing I changed is a feature called categories in reverse order. Previously, the 85 years and over category was on the top. Let me show it to you again. It was up here, and by clicking the categories in reverse order button, I was able to put it down here, so I flipped the labels upside down. I also reduced the gap width, which is the space between the bars. I deleted that legend from the bottom, and I inserted text boxes here to label the data more directly so that people didn't have to go hunting for the information that they needed. I deleted the grid lines. I would add a descriptive title if I were doing this in real life, a 6 to 12 word descriptive title that encapsulates part of the takeaway message. I deleted those axis labels, which are, I'll show you those again too. These are the axis labels here. They're telling me that my entire stacked bar chart from left to right adds up to, I don't know, about 1 billion people, about 500,000? That doesn't even make sense at all. Since we're kind of fooling Excel and using a stacked bar chart to create this small multiples chart, we just have to delete those numbers since they don't make any sense. And finally, I would resize this chart, so I would think about whether it's going into a document in a Word report or whether it's going into a PowerPoint slide to use for a presentation or to print a handout. If I were pasting this into PowerPoint, I would probably set it to be about 7.5 inches wide, or excuse me, 7.5 inches tall and 10 inches wide, so there'd be space for a small border or a small margin around the outside. So there's the brief overview of the 6 steps. Now let's go into the live demo, and I'll show you exactly what to click on. So step 1 again is inserting our original data table. Your data might come from an online source like my census data that I'm using. Maybe it's coming from some type of survey tool if you've done an online survey. Maybe you're downloading it from a database. Maybe you're inserting it by hand. You can put the labels across the top for the categories or down the side, just depending on which layout you want. This is exactly how the data came out of the website, so I just left it as is, with Arlington down this column, Alexandria down this column, and so on. Step 2 is that we need to create that data table again, but we need to insert some empty columns. So I'm going to go up here and copy and paste that data table. So I highlight the whole thing, and I'm just hitting Control-C on my keyboard to copy it. And we'll paste it right down here. So now I need to insert some empty columns. So I need one to the right of Arlington, another one to the right of Alexandria, and so on. So I'll highlight a column, and I go to the Insert button and just tap it once. And I'll do this a few more times. Great, now I've got 5 empty columns so that I can insert my fake data. Let's go down to step 3. Step 3 is that I need to insert that fake data. I need to do a simple subtraction equation and get some fake numbers so I can have white invisible bars in my stacked bar chart. So I'm going to copy and paste the data table again, highlight the whole thing, Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. So the tip I had given you before is to look at the biggest number in the table, 89,000, and you just pad that number a little bit. You add a little to it. So we'll go right here and just type in the equation one time. Always start your equations with the equals sign. That's how Excel knows that you're about to do a little bit of math. So let's say equals, and I'll show you what it looks like with 89,000. Well, no, we'll do 95,000 like before, but you can try 89,000 on your own if you want and see what happens. Equals 95,000 minus this number right here, you don't need to type in 11,782 by hand. Just click on the cell, press enter. No need to do this over and over again. Just look for that little green square and you're going to drag it down. Then hit Control C on your keyboard and just paste those formulas into all of your other columns. So these will be the colored bars. They get a blue or a gray or a black or whatever color you're using, and these will be the white bars for the fake data. Step 4. Highlight the data table and insert a stacked bar chart. So you can highlight this entire thing. You don't need to have the names of the counties because we're going to insert those manually using text boxes. We've got everything highlighted. To insert a chart, just go up to the Insert tab along the top. And we're going to insert a horizontal bar chart. There are a few different options. Clustered, that one looks crazy, stacked, and another stacked. These are basically the same for our purposes because we know that everything adds up to one kind of cohesive even number regardless of the age category. So if you look along the right-hand side of that chart, you can see there's an even line. It doesn't really matter which one we use. You can just click on this first one, a regular stacked bar. Let's drag the chart down here. So that's what the unformatted version looks like. Now we're going to start formatting it. Okay, step 5, we know that about half of those bars in the stacked bar chart have our fake data in them, so we're going to switch out the color and change them white to make them invisible. We'll copy and paste our chart. Click on Control C on your keyboard, Control V to paste. To change the color, just click on the actual rectangle. You'll see these little dots or circles appear in the corners of each of the bars of each of the rectangles. When you're clicking on the chart, you get this Chart Tools menu in the top of your screen. So you'll have even more options, Design and Format. So pretty much everything you need to format your chart is under either Design or Format, or it's going to be under this plus sign right here. So to swap the color, like I said, just click on the actual bars so that you see these little dots appear. And right under Format, we see the paint can Shape Fill. And we're going to fill them with white. Not no fill necessarily. I mean, you can do that, or you can do white. I mean, they're the same thing. We'll say white here. This is fake data, fake data, fake data, and more fake data. Great, it's starting to come together. And our final step 6, is to format, format, format. We're going to copy and paste one more time. So Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And I'll go through each of these steps that I've laid out for you. So first step, we're going to swap the axis right here upside down so that under 5 years is at the top. So right click in this section right here. You're going to see a rectangle appearing around the outside of the box. This gray line will show up. Click on Format Axis, and what you're looking for is a little box that says Categories in Reverse Order. I'm using Excel 2013 on a PC, but regardless of what year of Excel you have or if you're on a Mac or a PC, you're still going to have this option, Categories in Reverse Order. It's called this exact same thing. So when you click on it, watch what it does to the axis. It swaps everything upside down. So we want it like that. Next, because this is a histogram, we're going to reduce the gap width, which is the space between the bars. We want people to see the shape of the data a little bit more. We don't want it to look like this crazy zebra stripe kind of appearance that we've got going on. So if you right click on the bars themselves, you're looking for the option that says Format Data Series. And then you're looking for something right here called gap width. The default is usually 150%, which means that however tall or wide the bar is, the white space between the two bars is 1.5 times as wide. So if you would increase it, let's say 250%, watch what happens to those bars. They get a little thinner and spread out even more. If you would do 50%, they get a little closer together. I'll set it to 10%. We'll see how that looks. This helps my eyes so I can follow the shape of the data a little bit more and see that distribution of the age ranges. Next, we're going to delete the legend. So here's the legend or the key at the bottom, which we don't need at all. So just click on it so that it's selected and hit the backspace or delete key on your keyboard. And there it goes, now it's gone. Since we deleted that, we're going to insert text boxes by hand to make sure everything is labeled. So let me click on this inside of the chart. Gotta select it very carefully. There it is. And I'll shrink this area down. And I'm going to add text boxes above each of these that indicate which county it is and their total population size. So it's pretty hard to remember all these counties in my memory. So I'm just going to copy and paste them from up here. Copy, paste. Now let's figure out the population size. This is a very simple sum formula that I created. Copy and paste these values. So copy. And I want to paste special so that I don't get the formula, but I get the actual numbers that are added up. So click on paste special. Select values and click on OK. Perfect. Those are the numbers I need. Insert, where is it? Maybe it's under home. Where is my text box? Oh, here it is on the right. Arlington has 207,627. I'll paste and make another text box. Oops. This next one is for Alexandria. 139,966. And so on. I'll just do these first three so you get the hang of it. 1081726. And of course I don't need the border around these. Shape outline, no outline. Don't need an outline there. Next, I'm going to delete the grid lines so you can just barely see them, these tiny dotted gray lines that are hiding behind our bars. I've made the gap width so narrow I can't quite click on them, so I'm going to increase the gap width again so I can see them. Now they're selected, and you just hit the backspace or delete key on your keyboard and they'll disappear. Perfect. Next, we'll add a descriptive title. This is a generic title, or right now a lack of a title. So usually what I advise people to do is to actually state the takeaway message of their chart in the title. It might be something like, of all 5 counties, Fairfax has the largest population. or maybe it's something about how Arlington and Alexandria have more kind of 20-somethings and 30-somethings, where Fairfax, Loudoun, and Prince William cluster more around this area, people in their 40s and 50s, something along those lines. I'll just put in a placeholder for now. And then you might even want to write a short subtitle underneath there, maybe one sentence or two sentences or one or two lines. I'm putting the title in the upper left-hand corner rather than centered because in Western cultures, we read pages, of course, starting in the upper left is where our eyes go, and then we read across the page, and then we read down, and we read down because that's how we're used to reading books and other documents. So when people look at your chart, their eyes are going to go up to this upper left-hand corner first, so that's where you want to put the chart title so that it catches their attention. We'll make it left justified. You might make the actual title bold and maybe slightly larger than the rest of the text. Oops. I like to group all of these items together so that they move as a cohesive whole. So this text box is not living within the chart, it's living kind of separate from the chart right now. So if you select your chart and select your text box and you right click, you can group these items so that now if you resize anything, they move all together as one. Well, they're supposed to, but I'll mess with that later. Let's go into the next step about removing the border, and then I'll fix the spacing at the end. So to remove the border from the outside of the chart, you would click on the actual chart and go to Format, and under Shape Outline, the little picture of the pencil, you can just say No Outline. Then the border goes away. Finally, let's delete those axis labels, which are right here, these numbers that don't make any sense. That's a lot better. Now I would play with the final spacing. That text box is giving me a hard time today, isn't it? Let me delete it and make it again. When you copy and paste your text boxes, if you're clicking on the chart like I am now, your text box is going to show up inside the chart. It'll show up in the upper left-hand corner. But if when you copy and paste it, you're clicked outside the chart, then the text box shows up kind of outside the chart. It's not part of the chart body, which is why sometimes you have to group them together to keep them all together as one object. Sometimes it's easiest just to make sure you're clicked on the chart when you're inserting your text box or copying and pasting it, so that it's inside next to the chart along with everything else you need. $207,627. And of course you'd add text boxes for these final two groups. If you wanted to, you could add some data labels, maybe inside. You'd have to change the color and the font, of course. Usually I would place them inside the end of the bars. These bars are a little small, and I actually don't really need this much detail in my chart. I mean, it's really up to you as the analyst of how much detail and if you want people to know these exact numbers or not. In this case, we'll pretend that I'm just looking at the overall shape or distribution of the data. So there you go. That's how to make a small multiples histogram in Excel. I hope this has been useful for you, and I hope you can apply this to your own data. The main thing to remember, the main strategy we used, is creating a stacked bar chart as our foundation, and then we have those empty bars right there with the invisible data. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me anytime at annkemry.com. Thank you so much.